Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Arirang News Break on this Friday, June 24th. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Daeun. We begin with the historic EU referendum in Britain. Vote results in a few areas came in as the vote counting goes on this morning. And so far, it's still too close to call if the British people have decided to remain or leave the European Union. Now let's get further details from Arirang's Kwon Jang-ho, who's at the news center. Chang-ho, what do we know so far?
Good morning, Dan. It's still early, and about 30 areas out of 382 have declared the results so far. But from those results, the Leave campaign is leading by 6%. The Remain camp had been quietly confident of a win leading up to the vote, but the mood has changed drastically as earlier results showed the Leave vote is stronger than expected. There was an early shock when results from Sunderland in northern England showed the Leave vote had won by 22 percentage points, much higher than expected. That sent the sterling dropping. None of London's areas have been declared so far, where the Remain vote is expected to be strong. The importance of this vote to the British public can be seen in the fact that turnout is so far higher than the last general election at 69%, even with some terrible weather on Thursday. And the lead is changing hand as each results come in, so we need to keep watch as the day goes on.
So what happens next? I mean, it's still too close, but the Leave campaign seems to be doing far better than expected. So what happens if the Leave vote does win today?
Well, it would certainly send shockwaves throughout Europe and the rest of the world. Many are predicting Britain's economy to be hugely affected, with the IMF declaring that it would knock 5.5% off UK's GDP. But today's vote won't mean the UK can leave the EU right away. It could take anywhere between 5 to 7 years, and the political and economic effects and debates are expected to rage on. The final results should be out 7 or 8 a.m. BST, or that's around 3 to 4 p.m. Korea time. And whatever happens next, many agree that Britain has now become a divided nation.
All right, thank you, Chang-ho, for that. The pound plummeted after early results and the British EU referendum showed big wins for Leave. The British currency plunged 6% after results in the northern English cities of Newcastle and Sunderland voted heavily in favor of leaving the EU, much more strongly than opinion polls had suggested. Earlier in the evening, when Remain was looking more likely, the pound hit $1.50, a new high for the year. On the markets, Japan's Nikkei index edged up 0.55% from Thursday's close. Tokyo's stock price index went up 1.1%. A Leave vote could send shockwaves through European markets on Friday, as most analysts say investors had expected Britain to remain. And Korea's benchmark Kospi opened up 0.75% higher on Friday morning, above the 2,000 level, as investors bet on Britain remaining in the EU. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also rose around 1% in its trade opening. Amid the early results, the Korean government said it will sternly push through measures to stabilize local markets in case financial volatility increases excessively in the market. Vice Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok made the announcement as he led an emergency meeting with other financial authorities to gauge the possible impacts of the UK referendum. The Bank of Korea also plans to join government efforts while closely monitoring the market until the final results are out. Shifting gears now, the UN Security Council has spoken with one voice, strongly condemning North Korea's latest ballistic missile launches. It's also pressing member states to properly implement sanctions on the rogue regime. Kwon So-ah reports.
A day after the UN Security Council held an emergency meeting on North Korea's 2 missile tests, it adopted a press statement condemning Pyongyang's continuous violations. The statement, the 7th of its kind this year, said Wednesday's test firings were a grave violation of a ban on all ballistic missile activity in the country. The Council reiterated its demand that North Korea end its flagrant violations, halt all nuclear tests and ballistic missile activity, and comply with 5 UN resolutions imposed since the country's first nuclear test in 2006. The Council called on all UN member states to redouble their efforts to fully implement sanctions against North Korea. It also urged member states to quickly hand in their implementation plans, as many have not done within the requested 90 days upon the adoption of Resolution 2270 in March. 권소아, Arirang News.
A powerful tornado and hailstorms have killed scores of people and injured hundreds in China's Jiangsu province. Hail as big as ping pong balls wreaked havoc in the region, leaving large areas resembling a war zone. Park Jong-ung has the details.
The intense weather in Jiangsu province caused a high number of casualties, leaving nearly 80 people dead and some 500 injured. The hail came down so hard that it left gaping holes in the ground. A tornado, said to be the most powerful in 40 years, also ripped through the province in eastern China. After Mother Nature was done, much of the region looked like a conflict zone, as factories and buildings were flattened, roofs of homes were ripped off, and cars were overturned. The tornado and hailstorms raged on for more than 4 hours. China's official Xinhua news agency said winds of 125 kilometers an hour battered several towns in Funing County. Communication and power have been cut off. Leading up to the latest havoc in the country's central to southern region, torrential rains that started last week had already claimed some 30 lives and left more than 20 missing. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
And that's all from me, but keep it tuned to Arirang for more in-depth coverage on the EU referendum and more coming up at noon. Thank you for watching.